Tuesday morning. So I'm going to talk about some AI safety essentials. This is a presentation I do often to business leaders. So here I want to have more of a discussion to see how we go with time. But I very like to have your opinion on that. The idea is to talk about some points, especially regarding artificial intelligence that touch ethics and trends that you can see on AI. So, who am I? My name is André dos Santos. Actually, I worked for Request for a period for about a year. I was instructor, but I also work as a consultant, make some courses, and but my background is on AI. I study artificial intelligence here in Canada. I'm also an industrial engineer. And my background on artificial intelligence is on responsible AI, generative AI, and causality. Uh, I work I worked as a postdoctoral fellow at the U of A, and after that, I work at Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, also known as AMI. And now I work as a principal of artificial intelligence solutions at Alberta Motor Association, and I have my own business on AI consulting. So I've been around AI for a while. And I like to follow the trends on artificial intelligence, and I like to bring the discussion on how it will affect everyone, not only people that are studying it, but um, any human being in this world, because it's changing the way we conduct business or the way we um, appreciate media or the way we contact people. And that's an important discussion that everyone needs to be involved. The thing is, when we look at AI, when we hear about AI or Google about AI or go on TikTok, most of the news, most of the headlines are a little bit concerning because you hear things about, AI is going to destroy everything or extinction level threat or AI is conscious and, or the most recent news is AI will look to deceive a scientist in order to get an objective, and they are here to get us. Before I address those things, specifically regarding AI, this threat to humankind is not new, right? If you've been on this planet and if you're now old enough to be on, um, take a post-secondary education, you be used to be on being used to hear about those historical events that affect us all. Um, and this threat to humankind is not new. One of them, of course, is to kind of, we're hearing the effects on humans, which is the microplastics. It's kind of everywhere. And and apparently it's not going to leave nature anytime soon because we don't have uh, exactly an answer for it. And now I know it's going to be solved because it's found on even human testicles. So I know man will find a way to solve it because now it's affecting them more directly. But even if we talk about microplastics, if you think about GMOs, genetic modified organisms, it was also a few decades ago a big discussion on how GMOs are also going to bring extinction level threats to human beings because disease that could be formed or some plants will go extinct. The thing is, when you talk about those three things, AI, plastics, and GMOs, what do they have in common? They have a couple of things that actually affect all of them. First of all, they're concerning, and we should be concerned about them. There is something to keep an eye on. It's not, it affects everyone. It is the being alarmed about it. It's not unfounded. However, they are necessary. So on GMOs, so we have like 8 billion population, 9 billion, I don't know, 8 billion. And it will not be able to feed everyone without having without the GMOs in the current state that we have as economy, at least. Same with plastics, right? We can think about plastics being just evil thing, but healthcare wouldn't get where it is without plastics. We need that for sterilize, for instance, items in order to do surgeries, things like that. In AI, is the same. We got to major breakthroughs in science through artificial intelligence. The one of them, for instance, is the how we do protein fold and a lot of the vaccines and the way we some of the medications we get now were allowed because we got because AI got us there. And the third point is having common three common in common between those three topics is they all should be regulated um, because the threat is real and it affects everyone, it affects society. So society should have regulation on what's the boundaries of those technologies. But most of all, on the three topics, of course, the point that connects us all is the problematic media coverage because people are accessing the news about it in a way that does not allow them to see this big picture or to see the good sides of it, even though there's a discussion to be had around them. There are good sides that you cannot deny regarding all the three points. But mostly when we talk about AI on the coverage on those news, the problem is what comes to the news is that is often around generative AI, which is a more recent, I'm going to say discovery, but a more recent technology that's being more accessible to the general public, and it's creating all those that hitting all those uh, headlines on news. But artificial intelligence is not new. It's been around since, the invention of computers through Alan Turing. And generative AI falls into like many layers of categories, which probably you'll learn through this class or previous classes on what is artificial intelligence, then machine learning, deep learning, generative AI. Also say that generative AI, we depend on um, a lot of data, and that data is limited. But what is generative AI in a very high level sense is I'm very good at drawing elephants. Someone else is very good at mastering the painting with blue. Now we can make a very good blue elephant because in the end, generative AI is interpolation of human knowledge, meaning we extract those knowledge points into a latent space, and now I can combine them in many ways and allow us to do some expansion because now we get the essence of some features, even though we humans do not understand ourselves the way that happens through the computer, we now can expand to other knowledge domains. The things about using items like that, and that's in general across AI, not generative AI, it has those risks uh, can come in many ways. Can be to AI or from AI, because we can talk about the bias on the way AI making decisions that are wrong, or the security that it may affect us in that sense. And if you Google for bias right now, you're gonna have something like that as a result, which is not wrong, but I wouldn't say that it's completely right. My definition of bias, when I talk about bias, is that any distortion of systematic deviation from true causation in the process of handling data. What does it mean? So I just want you to ask here, like focus on the distortion, of course, and deviation, but true causation on the process of handling data. So we know that correlation is not necessarily causation, meaning you can get data and you can check how two features are correlated. But even though they have a strong correlation, doesn't mean it causation is there. One does not cause the other. And I like to show this picture because it's a very good example. Imagine there's a machine learning that is very good on recognizing cows, at least said to be. very good at recognizing cows. And then you give an image on the left and say, yeah, there's a cow there. And you give an image to the right, they said, no, there's not a cow there. Even though we humans see there's a cow on both images. So what's the issue here? Why machine learning recognize one but not the other? There was a class I would make you talk out loud, but during the interested time, I'm going to answer that myself. Obviously, in the left-hand side, the machine learning to associate a cow being on a pasture. There's a grass around it, and put that as a condition for the fact that you recognize a cow. And even though it's very likely you're going to find a cow on a pasture, it's not impossible to have a cow on the beach. It's possible, unlikely, but possible. The thing is, because we fed images of cows so much on the pasture that machine learning makes association. And you may say, of course, machine learning nowadays, we can do the distinction and it's possible to detach that component. And we kind of evolved a lot. But if you ever program any supervised learning or even unsupervised learning, that's still something that happens. And therefore something that we humans have a very good knowledge of, right? We have the knowledge of cow, yeah, pasture doesn't, condition a cow. But now if you expand the machine learning to domain things that we humans are not an expert on, and we're not aware of those bias, they will come to machine learning, and you cannot let machine learning to figure out what it is through causation. So if you want a good understanding of causation and how or machine learning got us here to truly believe in correlation so strongly they actually had so many issues on computer science. I recommend this book, The Book of Why. It's from Jujia Pearl. This is a Turing Award of 2013. He's the one that proposed causality. He also is the one that invented Bayesian networks, if you ever heard about it. Um, Quite interesting book, and you will understand a lot more and have this perspective on science and how science is connected to the economic system we live in, and how maybe things that are really important I actually know about it took so long to be developed. And when we talk about bias, of course, we have bias data, bias model. Probably in class, you're going to figure out the many ways you can classify bias, because it depends on the literature, which type of literature you're going to use. The important point is the bias exists. And then bias is not necessarily a problem. Bias is a metric within artificial intelligence. We need bias in a scientific manner. When we talk about bias in the sense of distortion of true causation, here's the problem when we say about bias. I'm gonna show this little video from this Chimamanda TED Talk, which you haven't seen yet. It's just this one part.
The single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete.
I hope the video went through. But if not, what she says is that um, a single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that not true, it's they're just incomplete. It's not the whole picture. And you see about representation bias in class, you see that. And I'm Brazilian. You might have noticed by the odd accent. Like there's a lot of things about stereotypes about Brazilians that are very true, but they're not the complete story. I'm not great. I do not ask me to play soccer with you because I'm terrible at it. Um, but a lot of Brazilians play soccer amazingly. The same way they say, like the same way you can talk about you. You probably part of a group that exists within a bias that people can say, oh, because you are X, you likely do Y. And we all live with this bias our whole life. And we're now building a machine learning and artificial intelligence solutions that will have this bias. And we do not want incomplete stories because we don't want to be left out. And we're now talking about technology that involves the whole society. Those technologies needs to be comprehensive. Now I'm going to touch on the large language model part because, of course, it's what's happening around us so much. I don't need to explain large language models, but it's basically a big calculator for words. And I can bring many failures of large language models, but again, same picture, there are good things about it. But one that has been concerned is that, for instance, a hospital that was using uh, AI-powered transcription for hospital, apparently when you check it, you invent a couple things in a hospital. Imagine now we talk about diagnosis, like health things that affect people, and LLMs are being well established that we believe like truly are using for transcripts, right? Like it's a quite common practice now around businesses. But I think this one rule that that I share with business leaders, and I hope you share with you, like, that you use it for yourself. And even though it's quite simple, it helps a lot. So, are you going to use the large language models? Yes. Are you okay with false outputs? Are you okay with large language models hallucinating? If it doesn't matter, I'm going to create my own fanfic here about Sonic and Harry Potter. It's fine. Don't matter. It's safe. But if it matters, then you have to ask, are you an expert on the field? Or at least you have a good domain, like the knowledge on the knowledge domain, you are a person that can give an opinion. And if yes, are you going to verify everything? Are you going to read through everything? And this is a tricky part because I fallen for that for like, yep, the first paragraph looks great. I'm going to send the whole email. And there's always gibberish on the part you do not check. So it can be safe. But if you're not going to check every single output, then I would say it's not safe. That counts for your studies, by the way. Um, when you're studying it, and that's the point when you talk about education, for instance. If you're studying something, you're not an expert on the something you're studying. So it's not going to be safe. If you're learning about AI ethics through ChatGPT alone, it's not safe. You need someone that can be the subject matter the expert to verify the output to say like, yeah, that's a knowledge you can add to your knowledge base. Otherwise, you're going to put false blocks of information on your brain, and that will crumble because now you don't have the true causation of a topic. Some other topics, of course, on workarounds when we talk about large language models, um, you hear it a lot is retrieval augmented generation, the RAGs. It's a way to work around those hallucinations where we use LLMs for what it is, which is a calculators for words. But for knowledge base, you make the model focus exactly to a specific content, extract the content. Okay, this is what's important, and just use the ChatGPT or whatever to present that content in a different fashion. Which is interesting is that the retrieval information, it's an old technology on computer science. So you go to computer science, you you study that and then now that's interesting part of large language models that many things that are being now retrieved, like some technologies that we consider outdated are now good like on the hype again because they connect to large language models. And one other one is the agent structure, so multi-agent structure. So the idea is LLMs are powerful things, but also cost a lot. And now you can have large language models focus on specific tasks. Let's say one large language model will be very good on doing to prompt engineering. One will be focusing on grammar, one is on the reasoning, one does the RAG, and putting all those agents to work together, you have a validation of your content. It does involve prompt engineering a lot, which has some limitations. I don't think it's yet the artificial it's not intelligence as we should be using. It's still far from causation. It does connect now to knowledge graphs, which again another technology that's resurfacing because large language models brought them back to attention. This is one paper, the first one to talk about it. Now we talk about the limitations of large language models. But there's one more recent paper from Apple, if you have seen the news, that talks about how large language models cannot reason. There's no thinking truly there. It's just association of words, which is correct. Though this paper was the first one to release about it, and I think this one is connected to Facebook, I think. No, there's just some famous researcher there. Point is, we know at this point the large language models are not to be trusted for reasoning, for making true association of items. It's just again a calculator for words. Of course, they're using just it's a impactful technology, but true intelligence, from what we understand of what intelligence is, does not come from large language models. And now it's like agent AI is doing that. That's another workaround. So uh, where we can build now a causal model that does some of those tasks and you can connect. So the solution will likely be we understanding those specific realms of intelligence, of human intelligence, and connect them together through many agents. But before we go around and give everyone a chatbot, which is happening a lot in the industry, and I know because I work in the industry and something that I've done, a chatbot. Um, I need to tell an anecdote about Uber and how that connects to the period we live in now. As you have heard, we're living this gold rush era on large language models where we have OpenAI, we have so many models, Perplexity, we have Anthropic, we have like Llama, we have Hugging Face, we have DeepSeek, so we have many options here or large language models because they're all looking to get the market share. They're all looking to be a leader. And there's always Google releases their video. Now I just heard about there's a Chinese one that does a much better job, but just this constant one up in the other. And large language models is all around us because this technology is constantly going through breakthroughs. Now, just take a pause here and let's go back 10 years. 10 years? How long have we been around? Let's say 10 years. At least 10 years. Um, when Uber was first released, if you remember using the app, it was quite cheap to go anywhere. It was like $8. I don't know, I think, yeah, $8 or something. It was very, very cheap to use Uber. Uh, to go places, to go visit anywhere, and it took a while to arrive to all cities. Point is, Uber made a lot of money at the beginning. But how did they make money? They made money through investments because they're breaking through to the market. It's quite new, and the other companies joined the market later, like Lyft. Uber had a very large market share, but they're not really operating at a profit. Quite the contrary, but they're making money through investments. And then came a time to pay those dividends, which is being kind of recent years. So if you notice, Uber's came not as accessible as before. And if you look at the prices, compare prices with Uber versus cab, sometimes Uber is more expensive and is not as accessible because now it's time to pay dividends. So if we play this analogy to artificial intelligence, you see AI everywhere, and there's this constant, a one up in the other, having AI on things that we don't even want to, or people are not feel that important. It feels like, yeah, AI is everywhere. It's like I don't have a choice. And even though there's something to discuss there, we have to be prepared that AI is not going to be forever this accessible or cheap at least. Because now we're already seeing some physical challenges. We live in a finite resource world where we don't, those data centers need water, need power, and there's already a lot of use. AI, it's not that, even though it's getting better and better or using those resources, those resources are finite. We live in a finite world. And of course, there are other now concerns about, for instance, how much fresh water you use is never reused again. For like 10 to 50 queries, you use like half a liter of water. It's fresh water that cannot be reused. And of course, they're a very big concern. And the second one is the way AI has been presented to us sometimes is a little bit misleading, or actually, I'd say very misleading. So, one, for example, is the humanoids from Tesla. I think you've seen about that, right? The humanoids pouring beer. What do we know about it? What we know about it is those robots were not actually fully autonomous. There's someone with a it's not really a joystick, but there were some humans behind controlling those robots. But the same can be said about the first Gemini videos were always staged. So we see a lot of staged AI, and that's something that we should keep an eye on because again, AI, very big hype word, is driving a lot of investments. So sometimes making announcements more about investment than the product itself. So here should we talk just about some AI trends before we may have some questions. Now, and they're not necessarily AI trend, but they're connected to AI in that sense sometimes. One is having time to waste is a new flex. And why is that important to AI? Because AI does bring us this, is AI is a productivity tool. You might have heard. Like so if you're working anywhere, oh, AI is gonna give us more time. But what are we using this extra time for? Are we rewarding people good work with more work? Do you really need to be productive? If you look at productivity as humans, as generations, our generation, the ones that currently living in, we all, as in general, everyone that is alive in this planet, we are more productive than any other past generations. We're more productive than our father, like your parents, our grandparents, any previous generation. We're already very productive. We don't need to be more productive. We need to be actually have more extra time because all we do is being productive. There's always something to do. There's always something to learn. So having time to waste is a new flex because, well, if you think about it, it is. If I have time to waste, how many people do you think have time to, like, do you have? Unlikely if you're just taking a class. So, and that trend, it talks about how we society organized, but something to think about that. The other one is being offline as a response to overexposure. I think Gen Zs, they were born, they maybe you here in this class likely, but Gen Zs were born on this era of social media, where social media, um, some kids have a social media since they're born. They can go and see a timeline of pictures, even though they did not choose. There's like overexposure to that. Now, being offline is a response to it, and again, connects to AI and how we bring AI to whole society and how we're going to respond that on this technology. The other one is that creating a real community is it's a powerful status because as a response to all of that, being connected, but being connected as a community to the peer person that actually lives next to you, which many people nowadays do you know your neighbor? Because I certainly don't. But my parents, when I was a kid, they knew their neighbors. They hang out together. This sense of community now is becoming a powerful status, and people are realizing that. And that connects to that internet theory, where it said that the majority of profiles we see on social media are not really people, are just bots. We have this bot farms, for instance, for Facebook that now like each other, interact with each other. So there's the AI feeding itself. AI was bringing just that internet theory, which might be the demise of social media, which is we're going to lead us to the next era of how do we connect to ourselves now. So Facebook is dying. It's not going to be Instagram. It's going to be TikTok. But TikTok also seeing some issues, as you see in US, where American folks have a special TikTok. Let's put it this way. Um, and that connect to what's the next for AI. If you went to the Upper Bound, this AI conference we have in Edmonton, you have heard about the closing statement of Dr. Sutton. He's the father of reinforcement learning, which is the type of machine learning that learns through experience. So those robots that are just learns how to walk by themselves, it comes from that technology. And he talked about this, what's next for AI, which is the era of experience. So rather than feeding a lot of data to AI and making AI learn about our past, we're going to make AI learn about our present as we go by observing us, by interacting with us and learning through our mistakes and uh, correct steps. This era experience it is pretty true because it's quite powerful mechanism. If you think about it, intelligence comes through that, right? We were a baby, we just didn't have much cognition about the world, and you start taking literally baby steps, and step by step, you start building in your brain pieces of knowledge that makes your brain the way it is today by adding more knowledge because we are humans are constantly learning. So AI likely will go there as well. And there's some being attempts to that on how we learn, on how we interact with this world. And AI try to be very immersive, but all this is immersive AI have not really landed. And the reason is, if you think about the previous trends, is now we're about community, and we're already being a little bit icky about the overexposure. We don't want to lose ourselves in this world that we already lost ourselves in social media. We want the AI to bring to a reality. And that's why we're going to see now the evolution of phones. We're seeing as the glasses are coming back, but now real glasses where interacts with the world is happening, or or you can even think about your earbuds are also an extension of your phones. But the prediction is that in the next 10 years, this very flat phone, this rectangular shape, will change for something that is more integrated to the reality around us. But whenever someone makes a prediction about AI, and that's something I want you to stick with you, whenever, whoever, if it's myself, an AI expert, you need to be careful what those predictions are. Because again, AI moves investments, moves money, and sometimes making predictions more about trying to steer money to a certain location rather than prediction itself. So a decade ago, the prediction was like all cars would be electric by 2020, I think by 2030, I think all cars will be electric. We know it's not going to happen. But I remember one big car manufacturer saying that all their cars would be electric by 2020, which we also know did not happen. But the point is, do we need electric cars or do we need a better public transport system? Same with Bitcoins or Dogecoins or any coins that you like um, any electronic um, currency, which again has its value. And but the prediction was like, paper like money, physical money was not going to exist in a very near future. We all should invest in Bitcoins. I mean, you should have invested in Bitcoins because you make a lot of money at this point. But at now, like, we still use money. Money, yes, we use a lot less of physical money because you can use your cell phones to pay things, but it still exists. And depending on the currency used, you can actually lose a lot of money. It drives education. So, do you need those uh, bitcoins or electronic money, or do we need a better system, economic system that focus on dealing with inequality? Same with the NFTs. It's like, oh, art is that, all NFTs will be the future. So do you need NFTs or need to value human art? Or immersive glass. They need ourselves to lose in a VR, in a system that put in a different reality, or we need to maybe focus on a third place on the place where we hang out with the community, on having better parts. When people talk about asking me about what's the best thing to deal with this pressure of AI all around us, is that it's our responsibility to be put value on the humans, on the what humans can do. The human values comes from us, and that comes from us respecting us as humans. On, for instance, enjoying reading a book. By the way, book is something that always going to stay with us because books are one of the few things on 2025 that you can enjoy without dealing with an advertisement, if you think about it. But going to park, listening to live music, going to a play, those things are an important way of resistance to this AIification that we have in the world around us. But now as a professional, because you're getting a class that is focused on you becoming a better professional, which I truly believe you're becoming. Um, so what can you do regarding this role that is kind of crazy and have AI all around us? If you work on a business, if you work for any company that is bringing AI, my first recommendation to businesses are my first recommendation to businesses is get an AI policy. And even though it's a documentation and it's a simple thing, it does affect us in a big way because AI policy forces to put a purpose for artificial intelligence to implementing on your business. It tells you what AI is going to be used for, what's not going to be used for. It defines boundaries, and those boundaries is important. So, as a business, a person that works in a business, that's what I recommend. A couple templates online, and I can provide some, but that's a very first step. In an individual level, as just regular people in this world, a couple of things you can do to protect yourself. Um, Restart your phone. A lot of people do not do that. Keep your software system updated because AI is now bringing a whole new wave of scams and fraud. But mostly, we need AI regulation. We need our representatives to do what's the best interest for society. And that comes with a proper regulation, understanding what AI can do and cannot do. And a good example is the AI Act on European Union, the one that it's leading the world, and it's still a little bit behind, but it's something that is concrete, where you can use, for instance, on stopping social scoring. So a couple of key takeaways is that AI literacy is important, and you're doing a great job by doing it. So AI needs to be aligned with our goals. May a business goals or your goals, but they need to have a purpose. We need to advocate for solutions that are based on transparency and causation. And your data is valuable. You are valuable, so you have to protect it and find ways to do it. And that's my presentation for today. And I left some good chunk of time so we can have a discussion and chats, and also maybe you can even take a break because I know I have another uh, presenter after me. Any questions, comments?